The sun dipped low over the rolling hills of the west, casting long shadows across the dusty town of Red Canyon. Rose adjusted her wide-brimmed hat against the warm evening breeze, her fingers brushing the leather strap of the satchel she carried. Today felt different. The railroad had finally arrived, and with it the promise of change that no one in town could ignore. Adam stood near the water trough, mending a worn leather harness for his horse, Thunder. His dark hair fell into his eyes, but he didn't brush it back. He was the kind of man who let his hands speak louder than his words, and tonight his hands trembled slightly, betraying the worry that he tried to hide. "Adam," Rose called, her voice soft, but carrying across the quiet street. "The workers said the first train comes through at dawn." He glanced up, meeting her eyes. "I know," he said, his tone steady, but his gaze lingered longer than usual. There was an unspoken tension between them, a pull neither wanted to acknowledge. Rose walked closer, boots crunching on the gravel. "Have you thought about what it means?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Once that train comes, everything changes." Adam shook his head. "Some things don't need changing." He looked past her, toward the horizon, where the tracks disappeared into the mountains. "I like it here, Rose. The land, the people, even the dust. This is home." Rose's fingers tightened around the strap of her satchel. "I can't stay, Adam. The East offers opportunities I've only dreamed of. I need to see it. I need to know there's more than this small town." Her words were firm, but a quiver betrayed her resolve. Adam set the harness aside, stepping closer. "And you think leaving me behind will make it easier?" His voice was low, almost pleading. "I can't follow, Rose. Not like you can." A silence fell between them, heavy as the desert air. They had met 3 years ago when Rose's family moved to Red Canyon. From the beginning, they had felt a connection, one that neither the hardships of frontier life nor the long, lonely nights could break. Yet now, the horizon itself seemed to be pulling them apart. Rose knelt beside a small patch of wildflowers by the trough, brushing dirt from the petals. "I don't want to leave you, I swear, Adam, but staying here. It feels like standing still while the world moves on." Adam's jaw tightened. "And yet, I'd rather stand still with you than move on without you." Rose's eyes glistened as she looked up at him. "Do you think love can survive if we choose different paths?" she asked, her voice trembling. Adam didn't answer immediately. He reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. His touch lingered, as if memorizing her features, committing them to memory. "I don't know," he admitted finally, "but I do know that if you go, I'll be here, waiting, hoping that someday maybe you'll come back." Rose's lips trembled, and she closed her eyes for a moment, trying to hold back tears. She had always been strong, always brave, but the thought of leaving Adam, leaving Red Canyon, it made her chest ache. She wanted the East, the future. The unknown, but part of her wanted nothing more than to stay right here with the man she loved. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, the two of them stood in silence. The soft whine of the wind through the canyon, echoing their unspoken fears. Tomorrow, the train would come. Tomorrow, choices would have to be made. For now, though they clung to the present, savoring the last moments of a world that might never be the same. The dawn broke over Red Canyon in a blaze of gold and crimson, the sky reflecting the promise and peril of a new day. Rose woke early, unable to sleep, the distant whistle of the approaching train already echoing through the valley. Her heart raced not from excitement alone, but from the weight of the choice she had yet to make. Adam was already up, tending to Thunder. The horse nickered softly, sensing the tension in the air. Adam's hands moved with practiced ease, but his eyes betrayed the storm inside him. He had hoped, maybe foolishly, that Rose would change her mind overnight. But even as he watched her brush down her travel coat, he realized that the train was not just metal and wheels. It was a symbol of everything pulling her away. "Morning," Rose said softly, trying to sound cheerful. Her eyes avoided his. "Morning," Adam replied, his voice low, thick with emotion. He handed Thunder a bucket of water, avoiding her gaze as he did so. Outside, the town was alive with activity. The townsfolk gathered along the tracks, children running and pointing at the rails, while the railroad workers checked and rechecked the lines. The air was filled with the scent of coal and oil, a strange perfume that spoke of progress and departure. Rose's fingers brushed the edge of her satchel. Inside were the few belongings she intended to take east. A dress her mother had given her, a journal, and a small locket with a picture of her and Adam taken at the first summer fair they had attended together. That locket felt heavier than it should. It was a piece of her heart she couldn't bear to leave behind, but she would. She had to. Adam stepped closer. "Rose," he said quietly, "you really are going to go?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "I have to, Adam. I can't stay. Not when I know there's a life out there waiting for me." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and pain mingling in his expression. "And you think leaving Red Canyon, leaving me, will bring that life to you?" "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But if I don't try, I'll always regret it. Always." Adam fell silent, the words striking him like arrows. He had always known this day might come, but knowing and facing it were two very different things. He wanted to beg her to stay, to tell her that the West could offer more than she imagined, that love could make it enough, but deep down, he knew he couldn't. He couldn't cage her spirit. The whistle of the train grew louder, a wailing cry that seemed to echo the conflict in their hearts. Dust rose along the tracks as the massive engine rounded the bend, black smoke curling into the morning sky. Children gasped, men tipped their hats, and women clutched shawls as the train thundered past, unstoppable and magnificent. Rose took a deep breath, feeling the vibrations beneath her feet. This was the moment. The train was more than a vehicle, was a choice, a line between staying and leaving, between the familiar and the unknown. She turned to Adam, her eyes glistening. "I'll never forget this place. Or you." Adam stepped forward, gripping her hands tightly. "And I'll never forget you, Rose. Wherever you go, part of me stays here, with Red Canyon. With you." They stood for a long moment, the roar of the train filling the silence between them. Then, as the engine disappeared into the horizon, Rose felt the pull of the east, like a tide, dragging her forward. She released his hands reluctantly, hoisting her satchel onto her shoulder. "Goodbye, Adam," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Goodbye, Rose," he said, his chest tight. "Go chase your life. But don't forget where you came from." The train vanished beyond the mountains, leaving only the echo of its whistle behind. And in the quiet that followed, Adam remained by the tracks, watching the horizon long after Rose had disappeared from sight. Change had arrived in Red Canyon, and with it the fragile threads of a love that might never fully mend. Rose sat by the window of the eastbound train, her fingers tracing the worn leather strap of her satchel. The countryside blurred past her ice-green fields, small towns, rivers reflecting the morning sun. Everything was foreign, yet exciting, and yet her heart ached for the dusty streets of Red Canyon. She had dreamed of this life for years, the bright lights, the opportunities, the chance to make something of herself beyond the confines of a small western town. But now, with the train carrying her farther from home, she realized that chasing dreams was not always easy. Dreams came with a cost, and for Rose, that cost was Adam. The first few days in the city were a whirlwind. Rose found lodging in a modest boarding house, took on work as a clerk at a busy general store, and tried to immerse herself in the rhythm of urban life. She met people from far-off places, people who spoke in accents she had never heard, people whose lives moved faster than she ever imagined. Yet every evening, as she returned to her small room, her thoughts drifted back to Red Canyon, to Adam, standing by the water trough with the sunrise in his hair. to the smell of the dry desert wind, the wildflowers he had shown her that first spring. She pulled the locket from her satchel, staring at the photograph, feeling the tug of something she couldn't quite name. Meanwhile, back in Red Canyon, Adam kept himself busy with the ranch, the town, and Thunder, but the emptiness of the place gnawed at him. Every creak of the tracks, every whistle in the distance, reminded him of Rose. He found himself walking to the edge of town, where the horizon stretched endlessly, hoping against hope that she might appear on the distant road. One evening, Rose wrote a letter to Adam, her hand trembling as she pressed pen to paper. She wrote of the city, of the work, of the people, but never of how much she missed him. Every word felt like a betrayal and a confession, all at once. When she finally mailed it, she felt a strange relief, as if sending the letter could somehow bridge the miles between them. Adam received the letter a week later, and as he read her neat handwriting, he felt both pride and heartache. Pride that Rose was brave enough to follow her dreams. Heartache that he could not share in them. The words on the page painted her life in colors he had never seen. But they also reminded him of the life they could have had together. Days turned into weeks, and the distance began to shape them in ways neither expected. Rose became more confident, independent, and worldly. Yet she felt a constant ache, a void that no new experience could fill. Adam grew more grounded, more tied to the land he loved, but the shadow of her absence lingered over every sunrise. One quiet night, Rose sat by the window of her room, staring at the city lights, sparkling like tiny stars. "What have I done?" she whispered to herself. She had chased her dreams, yes, but had she left her heart behind? Adam, miles away, leaned against the barn door, looking at the dark expanse of the desert. "I hope she's happy," he murmured to Thunder, who nuzzled his shoulder. "I hope she knows she's missed." Every day, though, separated by miles, both of them felt the invisible threads that connected their hearts' threads that neither distance nor time could sever. And while the West and the East pulled them in opposite directions, neither could forget the love that had started in the dust and sun of Red Canyon. Change had come, and life moved forward, but some things, Adam and Rose realized, were impossible to leave behind. The city was alive, with sound, the clatter of carriages on cobblestones, the chatter of merchants in busy marketplaces, the distant whistle of trains, coming and going. Rose moved through it all with a purpose, her steps brisk, her mind sharp. She had achieved so much since leaving Red Canyon, yet a quiet emptiness lingered beneath her confidence. One evening, after a long day at the general store, she walked through a small park and sat on a bench under a flickering lamp. The city lights reflected in her eyes, but her thoughts were far away, drifting to a dusty street, a stable, and a man who had never spoken much, but had said so much with his actions. Adam. She drew the locket from her satchel and held it tightly. How many miles had she traveled since she left? How many sunrises had she witnessed without him? Every achievement, every compliment, felt hollow without his presence. She had chased the world, but in doing so, she had left the one person who had made her feel at home. Meanwhile, Adam walked along the edge of Red Canyon, the stars above casting silver light on the land he loved. He had considered traveling east to find her, but something inside him held him back. This land, this place, was his soul. He had tried to imagine life without Rose, and though he could survive, he couldn't forget. Her memory was etched into every trail, every ridge, every whispering wind. Days later, Rose received an invitation from a wealthy merchant to work on a new project that promised a stable and prosperous future. It was an opportunity she had dreamed of, yet her excitement was tinged with dread. If she accepted, it would mean deeper roots in the East, perhaps permanent. And with that decision came the inevitable question: could she continue without Adam? Her heart ached as she wrote another letter, this one different. In careful words, she poured out her longing, her fears, and her love for him. "I can't help but feel torn," she wrote. "I want to succeed, to grow, but my heart stays in Red Canyon with you. I wish you could see me, even from afar." Back in Red Canyon, Adam read the letter by the lamplight, his hands trembling. He could see the struggle in her words, the pull between ambition and affection. He understood the need for her to chase her dreams, yet every fiber of his being wanted her to stay. For the first time, he felt powerless and unable to hold on, unable to push her away. A week later, news arrived that a company in the East wanted Rose to lead a major project immediately. The decision loomed over her like a storm cloud. She knew accepting would define her career, but it could also mean a permanent separation from Adam. She stared at the locket one last time, feeling the weight of the choice she had to make. The West and the East, love and ambition, they were pulling her in opposite directions. Rose realized she couldn't have one without feeling the absence of the other. Adam, standing in the quiet of Red Canyon, thought of her with every heartbeat. Neither knew what the future held, but both understood the undeniable truth. Some love cannot be measured by distance or circumstance. It lingers, stubborn and eternal, like the land itself. The stage was set. The choices were clear. The train tracks had already brought change to Red Canyon once, but now the true journey began, not on steel rails, but in the hearts of Rose and Adam, as they faced the impossible question: could love survive when the world demanded everything else? The first light of dawn broke over Red Canyon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Adam stood by the tracks, his boots dug into the dusty ground, the weight of weeks spent waiting pressing on him. Today, the train would arrive once more, carrying Roseanne with it. The answer to the question that had haunted both their hearts. Rose approached cautiously, her satchel light, her face calm, but her heart racing. She had made her choice, but standing here again, with the wind carrying the familiar scent of dust and wildflowers, she felt the pull of the West stronger than ever. The city, the career, the bright lights, they all seemed a world away. Here, with Adam, life felt rooted, alive, and real. Adam's eyes met hers, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The world around them, the quiet town, the horses in the stable, the tracks gleaming in the morning sun faded into a blur. All that mattered was the man and woman who had never stopped loving one another. Despite the miles, despite the dreams, despite the choices that had kept them apart. Rose took a hesitant step forward. "Adam," she whispered, I can't go. Not today, not yet. The city will wait, but you can't." Adam felt a swell of hope and disbelief at once. His heart pounded in his chest as he closed the distance between them. "You mean, you're staying?" "Yes," she said, her voice firm now, though her eyes glistened. "I thought I could chase the world, that the East held the answers, but I was wrong. The West, this land, and you are my home." Adam reached for her hands, holding them tightly. "I was afraid you'd leave forever," he admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "But now you're here. And I don't have to imagine mornings without you anymore." The whistle of the approaching train echoed in the distance, a reminder of the life Rose could have had, the life she had almost chosen. But she didn't flinch. She looked at Adam, at the dust swirling around Thunder's hooves, at the horizon that had shaped their love, and she smiled. "I'll always dream, Adam," she said softly. "But my dreams aren't complete without you." Adam drew her close, feeling the warmth of her body, the steady beat of her heart against his. "And mine," he murmured, "are better because you're in them." The train roared past them, a blur of steel and smoke, but it no longer carried Rose away. Instead, it carried the echoes of what could have been, a reminder that life offered choices, but love was patient, waiting for those brave enough to recognize it. As the day settled into a golden afternoon, Adam and Rose walked hand in hand toward the town, their shadows long on the sun-baked earth. They talked quietly, laughed softly, and shared glances that spoke of years of connection and devotion. They had survived the pull of distance, the lure of ambition, and the ache of uncertainty. And in doing so, they discovered that some loves, like the land itself, enduring, unyielding, and forever home. The West had kept them, and in staying, they found what they had both been searching for, all along each other. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.